Hello and welcome to this masterclass or mini course or whatever you want to call it. I called it Inbox Hero because it will be your hero in unleashing the full potential of your email deliverability and in helping you with your email marketing in general. And trust me, you will thank yourself if you apply all you see in this mini video. And I'll try to make it as short as possible. Ideally, keep it below 20 minutes. But there's a lot to talk about, and I want to cover everything because if I give you like half of what I want to say, it won't help you. So stick with me and watch the entire thing, and then you will decide for yourself what you need to do further on. So, who am I? And why should you listen to me? My name is Petru Jakob, and I'm a geek. I used to be a web developer back in the days, so I started my career back in 2005 or something like that. And I used to be a web developer. Then I started producing my own softwares. Then I realized nobody will come in by magic buy my software, so I started learning marketing, copywriting, running ads. I was all over the place. And finally, I realized I need to settle and not do everything. So I decided I wanted to focus on email marketing. So only on the past year, during the past year, I sent over 50 million emails for clients. I'm proud to say I recovered over $2 million US dollars in annual revenue for the brands I worked with. I managed to pull over 40% of revenue for the jewelry store, also a brand I worked with. The open rates are fantastic. Basically, after working with me, the brands I worked with had an average increase in open rates of like 67%. And the highest increase was like 4x, over 4x. That particular brand, they used to have a problem with their domain reputation within Gmail, and they were getting somewhere between 8 and 10, 12% on a good day to quote them. And after I did all I'm going to show you in this short video, they jumped from that 10% on average to over 40%. So that was a 4x increase in their open rates. And that's not the greatest result because one of the brands I'm working with, they're getting in the top 60 and sometimes over 70% open rates. And in total, I'm managing over 1.5 million subscribers. And I'm proud to say I've sent over 1,000 campaigns in the past year. So you could say I know a thing or two about email marketing, and trust me, email deliverability is one of those important things. This is one of the main pillars you want to deal with when you run email marketing, because if you screw this up, then you're going to have a bad time. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but for many brands, the email marketing, the email channel is the main news spreader. So you want to take care of this, and especially if you're in the e-commerce business, if you're in the SaaS business, even if you're a coach, this can work for basically any industry out there. So you want to take care of this channel because it's still a great channel, and for many it's the best channel because when running ads, you have to keep paying for those ads, whereas if you're acquiring users and keep them close to you and serve them, then they'll come back to you and buy again and again and spread the word eventually about your brand and your business. And if you maintain a good relationship with your customers, then you're going to have a great time. So yeah, you need to take care of this channel. And in this course, I basically want to talk to you about the email deliverability and whatever is around this topic. So I'm going to start in here. email deliverability normally has a couple of components you need to look at. The most important, in my opinion, is obviously the email authentication, because in this era, there's a lot of spam going on. And because of this, Gmail, and not only Gmail, but pretty much all of the ESP out there, they had to enforce some rules that are way more strict than they used to be. So basically what happens if right now you're not authenticated, and I will explain in the next slide what that means. If you're not authenticated, then you have a higher chance, this is not guaranteed, but you have a higher chance of being placed in the spam folder. And this coupled with the Apple privacy updates in the past years, this kind of leads people to thinking their open rates are okay when in fact they're not. So the new normal these days is to have at least 30 to 40% open rates. Whereas if you asked me 5 years ago, a good open rate, an industry average open rate would have been like 20%. So now there still are people that think that if they have 20% open rate, they're good, but they're not, because what happens is a lot of times the Apple devices open the emails automatically and they kind of inflate the numbers, but those aren't true opens, and they trick the tracking pixels. And this way, right now, if you have 20% open rates, it's kind of like having 10% open rates. It's kind of like 10% 5 years ago. So right now, if you want to have a good open rate, you're looking at 30 to 40% maybe. And this is why email authentication is hugely important. And I'll talk more about this in the next slide. Then we have reputation management and email infrastructure, which kind of fall into the same category, but for some reason I chose to split them. Then we have the list management, which is kind of common sense, but a lot of people don't look at it this way. Then it's the email content, which does a lot of damage many times. And then the email engagement, which in my opinion is kind of the least important, but still has some importance in here. So let me move to the next slide and talk more about email authentication, because I think it's huge. Okay, so email authentication, it is basically, and I want to explain it in as simple terms as I can. Email authentication is basically you convincing Gmail that your email infrastructure is legit. So basically, let's say you're using Klaviyo, and this I will talk a lot about Klaviyo because it's my favorite emailer out there, and because I love it, and they have the best support, and their UI and UX are pretty much all you need. And let's say you are sending an email from Klaviyo, and the email authentication, actually I did a special slide for this one. Let's say you are sending an email to some Gmail prospect. What happens is when you send the email, you're actually allowing Klaviyo to send on your behalf, but Gmail does not know this. And what happens is they need to figure out if Klaviyo or any other sender that pretends to be you is legit or not. So what they do is to check the DNS entries, and the DNS entries are basically kind of like a phone book. You know, when you type google.com in your browser, it converts that into an IP address, and then you go to some server, and that server gives you back the page you want to view. So when you're sending an email, Gmail looks at your DNS, say you implemented them at Namecheap or GoDaddy or whatever you bought the domain from, or you're holding the DNS at if you're using a third-party service. But to simplify this conversation, let's say you're using Namecheap. So Gmail goes to Namecheap and asks them, hey, does domain.com, let's say your domain johnny.com, does know of this Klaviyo server or whoever that is, or is that some dude trying to spoof an email and to do some shady stuff? And all of this is done through 3 protocols, and I'm not going to go into too much details, but they're called DMARC, SPF, and DKIM. And the DMARC is kind of like the governor. It gives the rules of what happens if the SPF and DKIM fail to authenticate. So basically, first Gmail looks at the DNS, sees whatever the DNS is located, or the phone book, if you will, and then it looks at the SPF and DKIM. And in here, they need to find some entries that point to the Klaviyo servers or MailChimp or whatever you're using, Aweber or whatever. And if it doesn't find them, then DMARC tells Gmail what to do with that email. And this was implemented because you can send an email from johnny.com, from hello@johnny.com, and say hi to your subscribers, but at the same time, someone else, let's say a hacker or whatever, they can send the same email to Gmail and offering that link with a virus or malware or whatever. And Gmail has to have a way of distinguishing between a legit server and a hacker. And this is done through these protocols. And if you're not authenticated, then Gmail has to decide based on the DMARC rules what to do. And if DMARC is very strict, then this email has a super high chance of going directly into the spam folder. Whereas if DMARC is not strict or does not exist at all, then Gmail has the freedom to do whatever they want to do with that email. And this basically results in some emails going into the spam folder, some emails going into the inbox folder, but you can never tell for sure what happens unless you actually test and see it. So basically these days, if you are authenticated, you're going to see super high open rates, especially with these numbers inflated by the Apple privacy updates, where, as I was saying earlier, where the Apple devices and the Apple email apps open automatically the emails to scan them for whatever viruses or whatever they want to scan them from. And basically, we do work with a brand that is getting around 70% open rates. And we're not talking about a small list, but like 30,000 emails sent on a regular campaign. So again, this is hugely important. And I saw emails going to the inbox without being authenticated, and I saw a lot of emails going to the spam folder. So what you need to do is to actually go and authenticate with your sender. And all of the senders have this option these days. So I personally did this with ActiveCampaign, with MailChimp, and with Klaviyo. And if you look at it, it's not very hard. It's basically just copy paste, but it's hard to know what to do and where to do it. So be careful, because if you're deleting entries from your DNS records, you may this may result in your website going offline. So if this is a live website, make sure you know what you're doing. Yeah. So what happens after you change your DNS settings and you authenticate? Basically, this is a change that happens overnight. Most of the times I did this, and I did this quite a few times already. Most of the times it's a matter of a couple of days. And for that brand that had the reputation, they used to have a bad reputation inside of the Gmail. They have a tool called Postmaster tool, and inside of that, their reputation was as low as it can be, and it went to the highest level. But for them, it took around 5 to 6 weeks or something like that. For the others that didn't have this problem, the change was pretty much overnight. So after I did this, one of the brands has seen a huge increase in sales, like over $150,000 in recovered sales. So basically, we're talking about people that never clicked, never opened the emails, but after the change, they started buying. So that's a huge increase in sales. So I'm sure you can imagine a lot of these emails were just going into the spam folder. And a good way to test this is to use a service. I used to use Mailgun, but I'm no longer using them because they got acquired, I think, by Snitch, I think. And they used to have a feature that's called seeding. Basically, they give you a list of email accounts, and you copy and paste them. You import them in your email, or let's say Klaviyo or Mailchimp. And whenever you email those, they check them. They check the inboxes automatically, and they see where they get placed. So in my tests for the brands I worked with back in the day when I was using Mailgun, a lot of them a lot of the emails were going to the spam folder. So again, this isn't guaranteed in any way. Like, you sometimes, if you're not authenticated, sometimes you can land in the inbox, and sometimes you can land in the spam folder. And if you drag your emails and basically mislead Gmail into thinking for you it's going to the inbox, but you're not seeing open rates over 30%, then you know you have a problem. Yeah, so this is pretty much point number one, which is the authentication. Again, to conclude, it is the way of you telling Gmail that you are allowing Klaviyo or MailChimp or whatever emailer you're using to send emails to your list to send on your domain's behalf. So Klaviyo is allowed to send on behalf of Johnny.com, and once Gmail sees that through the SPF and DKIM protocols, it's going to place you in the inbox folder. Of course, if you don't have a bad reputation or a bigger problem with your sending infrastructure. But this is pretty much all regarding the authentication. I mean, the short version of it, because it's this process is not that simple, but I wanted to make sure I don't spend like 3 hours explaining it. So this is pretty much all you need to learn and do it. And with Klaviyo, let me show you real quick. I need to change my dedicated in Klaviyo. They call it dedicated sending domain. So basically, I used to have this audiencerpartnership.com because I have a software that's called audiencer.io, which helps Facebook advertisers find interests to target with their ads. So if you're running interest advertising on Facebook, you may go and check that out. So basically, these are the values Klaviyo gave me, and I added these values to Namecheap. And after that, I click next, and I was authenticated with Klaviyo. And you can find this under settings and then domains and hosting. Let me know if you want more information about this. I can make separate videos, but for now, for the purpose of this video, this is not hugely important, but this is just for you to understand the process. So to conclude the authentication part, you need to copy those values I just showed you inside of my Klaviyo account into your Namecheap or GoDaddy account or whatever you have registered the domain at, and then Gmail and all of the other email service providers will see your sending emailer as being legit and not as being a spammy or spoofy or whatever we want to call it sender. So this is pretty much it, and I'll move to the next slide. Okay, the next thing I want to talk to you about is the reputation management, and it's that thing you do not want to screw up because it's going to affect you long term. And what I mean by that is, you need to take care about your IP, about your domain name and about your infrastructure if you manage it, but I'm pretty sure you're not managing that. So in your case, the domain name is the most important, because if you send from johnny.com to keep the previous example, and johnny.com ends on a blacklist, then any email sent from johnny.com is going to end up in the spam folder if this email service provider like Gmail uses that blacklist. In case of Gmail, they have their own blacklists and their own reputation management. So this doesn't mean you can play with it. You still want to play it safe. But if you want to check other blacklists, you can use this tool. It's called MX Toolbox, and you need to click on blacklist. And from there, you need to check your domain. I used in here MailChimp.com because they're pretty much all in the green, and ideally you want to be in here as well. And sometimes this tool will show you're listed on a couple blacklists, or one blacklist or two. Some blacklists aren't that used and you don't need to worry about them. Some lists are basically lists that flag entire data centers, like the UCL one. Basically, once they see something fishy going on with an IP, they block an entire network. And this means basically that if you host your domain somewhere and that data center gets flagged, you'll be flagged as well. But the most important thing that tells you are landing in the spam folder is basically the open rate. As I was saying earlier, the open rate has to be pretty big these days. I would say over 30%, because if you don't get that type of open rates, then you're doing a bad thing. So with the reputation management, you need to make sure you're not annoying people. So you're not sending them 20 emails a day or emails daily, or you're sending them bad stuff or promoting stuff all the time, like affiliate products, sending them offer after offer after offer, basically pissing people off, is going to end up in spam complaints for you. And once you get a lot of spam complaints, then your domain is toast. So you need to, even if you're sending affiliate offers or sending pretty often, you need to have a look at your spam complaints and at your unsubscribe rate. So all of the time you include an unsubscribe link. That's something I shouldn't be telling you because it's common sense, but you need to be including an unsubscribe link, and it needs to be visible. I've seen people hiding this or adding a lot of white space at the end of the email just to hide the unsubscribe, so they keep the unsubscribes low. But this doesn't work, because if someone wants to unsubscribe but doesn't see the unsubscribe link or button, what they're going to do is to click spam and report you. So this is one thing. The other thing is you need to make sure you never buy lists. So sometimes it sounds tempting, but this ends up in pretty bad problems for you, because with the purchase lists, you will end up buying honeypots and traps, and these will pretty much flag your domain and ruin your reputation. So you won't have any issues as long as you use the double opt-in thing, where you have people confirm their email when they opt in for your promos or whatever you're advertising, and not pissing people off. That's pretty much all you need to do, and doing this will keep you safe. And if you want to find an optimal sending frequency, you can send daily. I've had campaigns where we sent twice a day and nothing bad happened, because people were used to getting lots of emails. But in your case, and this depends on your sending frequency, it depends on your subscribers and how often they're used to getting emails. If you have a high unsubscribe rate, if you're starting to see people start unsubscribing from your emailing, then it may be means that you need to lower your email frequency, or it means you need to change the type of emails you're sending. Like if you're sending promo after promo after promo, then maybe this means you need to send some informational emails, some, I don't know, lifestyle kind of content, whatever you name it, just not send promo after promo after promo. Yeah, so this is also a very complex thing, the reputation management, but I want to keep this course like really short, and I will move to the next slide. And the next slide is the email infrastructure, which basically mean your emailer, or in the example with the authentication, Klaviyo, in my example, in my case, basically if you're using one of the big senders out there, you won't have a problem, especially if you use a paid account, because the more you go to the free tier and to the cheaper side of things, the more you'll end up on worse pools, because all of these sending infrastructures basically use sending servers that are shared between senders. So you end up, this is what they call a pool, and you end up being with other users in the same pool. And if many of those users, and if you have a bad reputation, you're being placed in a worse pool. Whereas if you have a good reputation, you're going to be advanced in a better pool. So as long as you use as long as you use a big sender like MailChimp, Klaviyo, ActiveCampaign, although I don't really like ActiveCampaign because their reporting, in my opinion, their reporting sucks. If you're using a big sender, you shouldn't be having big issues. But sometimes, because of senders with bad reputations, some of the pools get affected. And as long as you see your email open rates start to go down, and you don't suspect it's because of you, but it's because of the senders, then you can contact them and ask them to move you to a different pool. It's not guaranteed they will do it, but you can at least try it. And if they do not want to change it, if you see you're constantly having bad open rates, even though you're authenticated, if this happens, then if you don't have a domain reputation, so if it's not in your court, then you need to consider changing the ESP, the email sending service. If this happens, then this means you need to switch, but it's highly unlikely. So the first thing, if you want to debug this, is one, are you authenticated or not? Then check the domain name. If your reputation is fine, then look at the sending infrastructure. And this infrastructure, basically, like I said, it's the pools, the servers, and it's basically some data centers, but I won't go that much into detail. And only conclude this way, that you need to firstly check your open rates, and if those go down, then you need to check your domain, and if that is fine, you need to figure out with the ESP and solve this. Again, you need to have an open rate above 30% these days, and if you don't, then you're doing something bad. And I'll tell you about another thing you need to have in mind when I'll move to the list management slide, which is exactly the next slide. And what I mean by list management, basically you have your business, your e-commerce store, your SaaS business, and you keep on signing up people, and some people use fake email addresses, some people misspell the email address. So one thing you need to do to have a good list management is to use double opt-in, and this means basically where people confirm their email address before you start sending them email after email after email. If you're sending one email to a bad email address, that's not a problem. Even it can even be a honeypot or a trap, or a spam trap, and you're safe. But if you keep on sending to bad emails and your bounce rate goes up, then you need to make sure you fix this as soon as possible, because you may end up with your reputation being hurt. And this is one thing. Then the second thing is you need to periodically clean your email list. So if you've been in business for 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 years, you will see that over time, for some of the segments in your email list, the open rates drop. And this happens because some people just quit using that email address, that inbox. Some people die, some people whatever they do. But the point is, the older an email gets, the higher the chance that's not being used. And some of those email addresses with the big providers like Gmail, Yahoo, and others, they get turned into to spam traps. So if you have old email addresses in your email list, then you need to periodically clean them. And what do I mean by that? I mean, from time to time, you need to run a campaign where you ask people to opt out or to click on something to stay on your list. And if they don't, then you're going to remove them. And you don't need to email everybody and tell them to click on something to keep them on your list, because some people will be engaged, but they will not see that particular email, and you don't want to delete a good subscriber. So in this case, what you want to do is to create a segment of people that haven't been opening your emails for, let's say, 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And this depends on your sending frequency. So if you're the kind of brand that sends emails every other day, and you have people that haven't opened in a month, then you kind of need to remove them. However, if you send once a month, then you can move this time frame to like 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, because if you're only sending once a month, there's a higher chance people just miss your emails and not open. So if for example you're sending once a month and you set this rule in the segment to include people who haven't opened the emails in more than a month, then you will end up deleting people who have missed just one email. So that's not the proper way to do it. The proper way to do it is to first look at your sending frequency, and basically if you have sent people 3, 4, 5 emails in a row and they haven't opened, then maybe you need to consider removing them from your list, because they're no longer interested in seeing whatever you have to offer. And this is a big thing, and it will also count towards your open rates being greater. Why? Because I had a brand I worked with, and they used to have like 60,000 people on their email list. And what I did was to run an audit, and I saw some of them were never opening. Like, they had campaign after campaign after campaign, and those people never ever opened. And this way, and coupled with the authentication thing I spoke about in the first slide, this made them jump from 14 or 15% to like 60 something, and sometimes even 70% open rate. So this is the other component besides authentication that massively contributes to high open rates, which is emailing only those people who want to see your email. And again, it's common sense if you think about it, but not many people see it as common sense. And even with this brand, they used to want to send those people, even though they weren't opening, this brand kept on sending them email after email. And I was like, why are you keep sending emails to these people? It only does harm to you, because they never open, they never click, they never buy. So there's zero engagement, zero buying power or buying opportunities, and it's only people basically that never open, and this is visible to Gmail and other providers. Whereas if you only send to your most engaged people, and this is one of the ways you can work in improving your reputation. Like if you see a drop, you can also send a couple of campaigns to only to your best people, and this way Gmail will get that signal that you have high open rates and you deserve a better reputation. So this is one thing to keep in mind, to segment your list and to make sure you clean it pretty often, or at least if you don't want to clean it and keep the rest of the emails for really occasional emailing, you can do that as well, but make sure you don't keep your emails for years in there and then expect to have huge open rates, because you will not. And this is the sad truth. Sometimes you need to you need to delete those emails because they will do more harm than good. And even though it doesn't sound that great deleting emails from your list, because you paid for ads maybe to get those emails, you worked on campaigns, and you worked a lot, and it's not that great to have emails removed, but is the reality, and you need to do it. Okay, so this is pretty much it. Again, a very short version of the list management tactics. And I will jump to the next slide, which is your email content, obviously. And this should be coupled with the last slide, which is email engagement, which is directly influenced by your email content. And what do I mean by that? The email content can be of two types. One is images and one is text. And what I noticed is Gmail, and others of course, but what I noticed is Gmail tends to favor the text email more. Like if you send an email that's image heavy, it has lots of images inside. And what I mean by image heavy is the ratio between text and images leans a lot towards images. Basically, if you're sending an email that's 100% images, that's a high chance for Gmail to either place you in the promo tab because they see it as a promotion with lots of graphics and all that, and sometimes because hackers and spammers use images to fake stuff and to inject stuff into the emails, you have a chance of getting in even in the spam folder. So that's one thing to bear in mind when you're sending emails, when you're sending promos, is to have a good ratio between text and images and to lean more towards text. There's not an exact number or an exact science, but in my case, I noticed that usually the text base or the emails with more text than images tend to have better revenue. And I'm assuming this happens because of better placements inside of DSPs. And also, it also depends on the industry, because sometimes you need more copies, sometimes you need more visuals to show stuff, and especially in the e-commerce niche, you kind of need more visuals, but you don't want to use too many visuals and too many promos, because that's what happens. You end up in the promo tab, and once you do that, the open rates will drop, not by a lot, because a lot of people also check the promo tab. But from what I saw, and we even run some tests, and we have a campaign that was absolutely retarded. We sent an email that was heavier with images. It had a lot of images, and then we sent one that was mixed content, and we sent one plain text, and the plain text got twice as many purchases as the images one. So that was kind of disturbing for me, because when you're making an email, when you're creating an email, you hope to have that that visual thing to count a lot towards the revenue, but apparently it doesn't. And I don't know why that happens, but I'm assuming it is because of the placement. But in that experiment, as I was saying, the text email did a lot better than the image based one. Yeah, so that's one thing, images versus text. And if you want to test this before clicking on the send button on your campaign, most of the email providers give you the option to actually test your email. And my advice is to not use your main inbox, because you're seeing those emails a lot. You click on them because they're your emails, and obviously you want to click them. You want to see how they render. My advice is to have a new account, let's say a new Gmail account, and you send the email to that account only. This way, and once you do this, once you click on it, do not drag it. If you find it in the promo tab, do not drag it in the inbox, because for that inbox, Gmail will learn that you want it to be in the inbox tab. So even though for others it will, if you run other tests for other emails, those emails may land in the promo tab, you won't be able to see that, because for you, Gmail has learned that you want that email from that email address to be in the inbox tab. So for testing, just use a separate account, and with that separate account, you want to see the absolute truth. It's not going to be 100% relevant, but you will get a decent image of where your email goes. So if you see your email goes to the promo tab, you can tweak stuff. You can remove some of the images, you can add more copy, remove some of the keywords, and this way you will increase your chances to land in the inbox folder. And on the same topic of email content, we have the email engagement. That's basically how people react to your email. So the purpose of an email is not to sell, is not to. Some people wrongfully think that they have to add a lot of copy, a lot of images, a lot of whatever, and to make it so complex that you actually sell within the email, which is wrong. The only purpose of sending the email is to place it in the inbox folder. Then the only purpose of the subject line is to make the prospect, the subscriber, click on it and open the email. And then the only purpose of the email content is to actually make the user click on that email and take them onto your website. And then on your website, you can convert them to customers. So saying buy now, buy now, buy now all over the place, it's only going to make Gmail think that's a promo and move you into the promo tab. Whereas if you say, hey, check our latest collection or our bestsellers or whatever, and just have a simple picture in there, will give you a higher chance of getting into the inbox, and also a higher chance of people clicking on the email. So the purpose of an email, again, is to be clicked, and you want to sell the click, basically. You don't want to sell the product inside of an email. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the course. Unfortunately, it is way longer than 20 minutes, what I envisioned it to be. And I apologize for that. I apologize if I have wasted your time. And either way, if you got this far, please do email me at petru@techdrivenpartners.com and let me know what you think. I'm really interested in knowing your feedback, because this feedback helps me producing better and better content. And yeah, it helps me a lot. And I truly hope this content made you understand whatever happens behind the authentication curtains, so to speak, and it gives you a better understanding of what you need to do to have higher open rates and better click-through rates and all that. Thank you, and I'm waiting for your feedback, and I'm serious. Also, if you want me to have a look at your email setup, your email campaigns, your email flows, which are the automatic emails, if you want me to take a look at your past results, at your subscribers, help you figure out where are your buyers, who are your buyers, how often they buy, and other metrics, then I'll be happy to help you. And do let me know. The email address is petru@techdrivenpartners.com, and do let me know. I'll be happy to have a look. And also there should be a button somewhere in here where you can book a call and get in touch with me if you want me to help you with any of that.